Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to conservation and careful management of the state's forests to make them more resilient and better habitats for wildlife. ChooseWood.com.
From the St. Louis Public Radio newsroom, this is The Gateway. It's Wednesday, May 15th. I'm Abby Larico. When people get shot, the bullets sometimes stay behind, and surgeons don't always want to take them out when they're working to treat injuries as quickly as possible.
Trauma care is war medicine.
A check-in with some of the survivors of the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl parade shooting who are living with bullets in their bodies. That's coming up on The Gateway. St. Louis Mayor Tashara Jones says she is prepared to lift a hiring freeze that's been in place since March. She made the announcement last night during her State of the City speech. St. Louis Public Radio's Rachel Lippman has more on what it will take for that to happen.
Jones called the freeze on all but essential positions one of several difficult moves she had to make to protect the financial health of the city. A number of bills introduced by state lawmakers either sharply curtail or eliminate the city's earnings tax. That's a 1% tax on the salaries of people who live and work in the city, and it makes up the majority of the city's general fund.
If Jefferson City doesn't pass any laws decreasing our earnings tax by the time session ends, I'm happy to say that we will lift the hiring freeze on Monday, May 20th.
The city is still facing lawsuits over whether people who work remotely outside the city for companies based in the city have to pay the tax. A judge ruled in 2021 that 5 people were entitled to refunds of the tax for days they worked from home. I'm Rachel Lippman, St. Louis Public Radio.
Missouri education leaders are looking for more ways to ensure new teachers are fully prepared to work in the classroom. Missouri's Education Department reports fewer than half of first-year teachers completed a comprehensive state certification program before starting the current school year. Daryl Fridley with the Office of Educator Quality says it's important to retain early career teachers.
No matter how many teachers, well-prepared teachers, we can get into that bucket of first-year teachers. If there's a giant hole in the bottom, it won't matter.
To better support new teachers, the board is considering extending the required length for a beginning teacher assistance program. It may also change some certification requirements. A long vacant North St. Louis building is set to get a new life as an addiction recovery and treatment center. St. Louis Public Radio's Eric Schmid reports on the nearly $23 million revitalization of the old Elliott School.
The school was constructed in 1898 and is one of the first that St. Louis architect William B. Ittner designed, but it's sat empty since 2004. Jubilee Community Development Corporation acquired the building 2 years ago and plans to revitalize it and provide 75 beds for addiction recovery. Andy Krumzig is the administrative pastor of Jubilee Community Church.
Hopefully this is a project that hits home all the way in the city and all the way out in the county, because everybody's affected by the fentanyl epidemic. It hits every family.
Krumzig says the project still needs to locate some of the necessary funding. He says they plan to fundraise as well as apply for a handful of tax credits and congressional appropriation. I'm Eric Schmid, St. Louis Public Radio.
Illinois Republicans are glad the state is getting sued over a new law that changes how candidates are selected for elections. The conservative Liberty Justice Center brought a lawsuit over a measure Governor J.B. Pritzker signed this month. The law eliminates the ability of political parties to slate candidates for the general election if no one ran in the primary. State Representative Blaine Wilhauer says he has concerns beyond the ballot access questions brought in the lawsuit.
When you got sitting state representatives that are literally voting for a bill to preserve their own position, you got major problems, and I think that you need to be asking serious questions.
Republicans unanimously voted against the measure. Some Democrats did too, saying it's unfair to change the rules of the game while it's being played. Despite the law, the State Board of Elections is still accepting nominating petitions for slated candidates. It's been nearly 3 months since the shooting at the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl parade. And while the event itself has largely faded from the headlines, recovery remains a daily presence in the lives of the 24 people who were shot and survived. Several still carry the bullets from that day and are grappling with their wounds both physically and emotionally. Peggy Lowe reports that medical guidelines aren't exactly clear about what to do with the bullets.
Sarai Holguin isn't much of a Chiefs fan, but she did know a spot that was sure to have a clear view of the players outside Kansas City's Union Station. The parade day was sunny, warm for Valentine's Day. Parents were pushing strollers, kids tossing footballs. She felt safe until just before 2 o'clock.
Cuando terminó el show, empezamos a oír los balazos.
Through an interpreter, the 71-year-old Holguin says she heard what she thought were fireworks as the Chiefs players left the stage. The crowd turned, people ran, she felt dizzy. She fell to the ground. A stranger took off his shirt and put a tourniquet on her left leg.
Wow. You didn't even know that you got hit. Okay.
Usted ni siquiera sabía que le habían metido un balazo.
No. Wow. Okay.
Holguin says she was taken to a nearby first aid station. She was hit near her knee. Paramedics put on another tourniquet, and she was rushed to the hospital where she quickly had surgery.
Did they get the bullet out of your knee?
No, la tengo. Voy a vivir con ella.
No, she says. I'm going to live with her for the rest of my life.
How do you feel about that?
Ya me hice amiga de ella para que no me mate.
We became friends.
So that she doesn't do any bad to me anymore.
Some people with bullets still in their bodies find a way to live with them psychically, says Dr. L.J. Punch. He's a former trauma surgeon and founder of the Bullet-Related Injury Clinic in St. Louis.
If you're able to make a story around what that means for that bullet to be in your body, that gives you power, that gives you agency and choice.
You might assume that people who've been shot have the bullets removed, but it's common practice in the U.S. to leave them in, at least at first.
Trauma care is war medicine.
Again, Dr. Punch.
It is set to be ready at any moment and any time, every day, to save a life. It is not equipped to take care of the healing that needs to come after it.
One survey of trauma surgeons from 2016 found that only about 15% of them worked at an institution that had policies on removing bullets. The most common reasons surgeons gave for taking them out was a patient's pain, a palpable bullet lodged near the skin, or an infection. Far less common is consideration of a patient's mental health conditions like post-traumatic stress disorder and anxiety. Dr. Brendan Campbell, a pediatric surgeon at Connecticut Children's, says surgeons do remove bullets if they encounter them or if the bullet poses a serious risk. But when a patient is in surgery after a shooting, those patients are often getting life-saving care, like controlling bleeding.
So you're not going to prolong an emergency operation to look for a bullet that is not causing a problem for the patient.
Bullets can be hard to find. Retrieving them can cause further harm. The more time a patient spends in the operating room, the sicker they could get. Those are all reasons why leaving bullets in bodies often makes sense to a surgeon. But to a patient?
I get it, but I don't like that.
James Lemons was also shot at the Chiefs' victory parade.
I got hit in my the upper part of my thigh. Here, like I said, I don't care. I'll show you. Look bother me.
The 39-year-old wore shorts under his jeans so he could show the scar from his wound. I was surprised to see how healed it looked.
It's small. Yeah. And the bullet's still in there.
Yes, ma'am.
It's lodged in his muscle. It got close to his arteries, he says. He thinks most people in his situation would want it out.
If there's a way to get it out and it's safely take it out, get it out of the person. You know what I mean? Make that person feel more secure about themselves and you're not walking around with that memory in you.
Initially, he was told his bullet would be left in unless it became a problem. It became a problem. It's painful, and it's keeping him from going back to his warehouse job.
I had so much nerve damage and everything, and I told him, I said, I can't. I was like, I can't work like this. I was like, I got to lift 100 pounds every night. I was like, I got to lift my child. I said, I can't work like this.
Without work, his health insurance lapsed. And soon after the parade, his family was forced to move when their rental home was sold out from under them. We're talking in his 5-year-old daughter's pink bedroom, the space with the fewest moving boxes. It's all dug his family into a financial hole. But he did find a surgeon who's going to remove the bullet.
Why does he want to take it out?
I think because I asked. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Because you want it out.
I think that's the truth of the matter. That I went and I asked him, and he was like, "Yeah, I can get it out. You know what I mean? No problem." You know what I mean? just make you feel comfortable. Yeah, and that means a lot.
Feeling comfortable is also important to Sarai Holguin, the 71-year-old who was shot in the leg. She pulls out her phone to show me photos of the wound. It's finally starting to heal with the help of a small machine she wears like a purse.
En esta foto es donde me ponen la máquina. So this is where she has the machine on.
I see. It's a wound vac, yeah.
She's had 2 additional surgeries because the wound kept getting infected. It still hurts, but she no longer takes pain meds.
El pie lo tengo en trauma.
Her foot dangles like it had a stroke, she says. She uses a walker and needs help to do the most basic house chores. Going back to work is out of the question. Even so, she's optimistic.
Me siento bien. He procesado.
She feels good, she says. She's processing this new chapter of life. I have never given up, she says, and I will move on with God's help. I'm Peggy Lowe.
That story comes to us from NPR member station KCUR in Kansas City and KFF Health News. The Gateway is a production of St. Louis Public Radio, a listener-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis. Music by Ryan McNeely of Adult Fur. I'm Abby Larico, and from the St. Louis Public Radio newsroom, this has been The Gateway.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to conservation and careful management of the state's forests to make them more resilient and better habitats for wildlife. ChooseWood.com.